Hi, and welcome to the Most Important Game podcast. I'm Paul Monahan. I help my clients to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more. Welcome to the podcast. We have an amazing guest today. I want to tell you a little bit about Barb Heenan. Barb's been a professional coach and a speaker and a trainer for nearly 20 years. She works with leaders, senior executives, entrepreneurs, and other dynamic growth seekers. She's been a coach and a mentor for me for the past 13 years. She is super high energy, one of the most positive people you will ever meet. And she knows how to she knows how to help her clients to realize their energetic best in any moment. And she's here to talk to us today about performance energy. So Barb, so great to have you on the show. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. As always, spending time with you, Paul.
Of course. Yeah, lots of great energy, lots to talk about. So I'd love to kind of kick this off and, talk a little bit about where things began for you in coaching and in the work that you do. There's so many amazing things that you do and so many amazing experiences you had. I guess I want to start. So you're a Chicago girl.
I am a Chicago girl, born and bred.
What was it like growing up in Chicago?
Yes. Oh, it was great. I mean, you have everything there. You have this gorgeous lake. You have the museums. You have the music. I mean, hello, blues. You have the food, everything. And I loved being there and just being in the Midwest. You're among people that are just naturally friendly, good. I call it good Midwestern stock. Like
good stock.
We're good stock, you know.
Awesome Midwesterners. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And I just moved to Denver about 2.5 years ago. And I love it here in Denver. And I do miss Chicago, of course. So,
awesome.
I fly back often.
Yeah, that's great. How did you find coaching? Tell me about how you found that.
That's a funny, strange story. I was in my third career. I had been in the medical world as an occupational therapist, helping people at Northwestern Memorial Hospital in Chicago overcome really intense injuries and issues and whatnot. Went into medical sales because I loved the equipment I was using as a therapist. I became a hand therapist and was using all this cool galvanic stim and, continuous passive motion, all this. I loved it. It was so fun.
Right.
And I just went off a creative deep end and I was like, I'm done with that for now. I'm going to do my art career, which I created out of nowhere. And I started.
Why not?
Why not? I created a product with which I was talking to Target to get into Target. And they were like, well, you got to be able to produce this for 30 cents each. And that means sourcing fabric in China and getting it made there and all this stuff. And I was like, wow, I don't know what to do. Hired a coach. And I just fell in love with this process of, we weren't just talking about building a business, which was my subject matter. We were talking about what was important to me, what mattered to me, why did I want to do this, and what was interesting about that for me, and what were my challenges. And I had never had a time in my life to sit down and A, talk about me, and B, and that was a pretty fun subject, and B,
nice, of course.
have someone, reflect back to me. And for me to hear it in a way that was like, oh, wait, that's different. So what happened in that process was I found myself getting more interested in the questions she was asking me and the process of coaching than in my own business.
Yeah. This is like an out-of-body experience, right? You're like, yes. Hey, wait a minute. You're over here. You're like, did you hear that question you just asked me?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And the minute I looked into it and I found IPEC, the school where you and I went for coaching school, it was instant. It was an instant love at first sight that I knew this is where I was meant to be. And I've been doing this for 18 years now. So never looked back once.
I love that. Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah. It really is amazing when you think about the process and how transformative it can be. And most people we know never go through that. That's the crazy thing.
It is crazy. Yes. Yeah. It's really for people who are starting to get that inkling of, could I have things be different for me? And how do I do that? And who am I on a deeper level? And how do I add more meaning to my life and all those things? And I will say even more specifically for coaches like us, Paul, you and I, for you and me, we went through a thought leadership or school where it goes even deeper than that, where it's not just a cognitive behavioral therapy of change your thought and change your life. It really goes to the underneath of what's making that thought pop up in my brain in the first place. What's underneath there? What is my consciousness level that is producing that thought, right? And that's where we go into that energy leadership, is that attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs that either work for us and support us really well, and sometimes even work against us. And sometimes those thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are even unconscious. And we're just like robotons doing things. It's like driving home from a day of work. And you're like, how did I drive the car? I don't even know how I pulled my car in the driveway. I don't remember the ride. I was in my own little world.
No doubt. Yeah, I love that. I definitely want to talk about that. I am curious so now you step into this coaching world, right? You discover coaching, you discover for yourself its transformative benefits. You discover how it allows you to perform at a certain level and all that. When did you discover and realize that you could make an incredible impact for your clients, for the people that you worked with as a coach? Like, what was that like?
I remember it. I remember it specifically. I was in school, and it was our second live in-person module training, and where we had to break out into pairs. You remember this? We had to break out into pairs and coach each other. Yeah. And I remember when it was a time in which I was playing the coach role and practicing some of the coaching skills. And my coaching partner, who was the person being coached, like 2.5 minutes in, burst into tears.
Oh, my goodness.
And, it's not like that's so exciting, but for us coaches, it is. Yes,
made her cry.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. You got deep, right?
It was that moment of self-awareness for them that they hadn't been in a place to do that before, and how they were just so surprised, and I was too, how quickly we could get to that place and have a realization that came to a point of consciousness where I then can make a choice about how I view that situation, and maybe have a different attitude about it, a different emotion about it, a different thought about it. And what am I learning from it that I can do differently in the future, and go from there? So that was really, that was really humbling and powerful.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because some of what I've been really noticing a lot more just in the recent weeks, as I've worked with some clients on some things, is that, like, as much as anything, creating the space for something to happen, for something to emerge, something we could never predict. We have no idea what is going to emerge, but if we create the space as coaches, it allows something to emerge, right?
It does. And that's that, getting quiet, using pause and silence for ourselves as coaches as a technique, but even our clients can learn that. How do I pause for a moment, breathe, and it almost acts as an intervention to breathe in a fresh outlook, a fresh perspective, fresh air, is what it feels like. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, I love that. My friend Jay Hennessy talks about the pause a lot, right? Yeah. He talks about the value in taking a pause, especially not just for the individual, but for the team, for the small group. Can we just pause for a moment and reflect on what's going on?
Yeah, and I feel like a coaching session or engagement, a coaching engagement, is a pause in itself. I'm taking a pause on my crazy, chaotic life, and I'm going to invest in myself to explore this because it really does make a difference in what I'm doing. So even that on a bigger scale is the pause, is I'm taking an hour or 45 minutes to talk with my coach or, what have you. So that in itself to me is very profound.
Yeah, that's
You
great.
give yourself a gift.
Yeah, I love that. So this is great because I'm remembering back to my IPEC training as well, my coach training course. And so, I went through it a number of years after you did. And, I was lucky enough to have you as the lead facilitator in my cohort, which was amazing. Such a great experience. So you have this experience that's like, oh man, I can make a difference with somebody because it just happened, right in front of me, which is really cool. I'm curious then what the next few years look like as you begin to step into the coaching space. Like, what was that journey like the first few years?
Yeah, it was a jumble of things. There was so much excitement and it's kind of, so I'm kinesthetic. So I'm just imagining myself, I'm going up into this higher place of learning, but I'm also stretching deeper into the depth of what I'm learning for myself.
Yeah.
I'm, as one of our sayings is, I am the teacher and the student. Is one of our sayings in our coaching, which we can extend to our clients. Every single person we meet is our teacher and student. So if I take that in and I'm a student, I'm learning from other people all the time, even if I might be in a teacher role or what have you. So it's the breadth and the width of, and then the depth rather than that I can go into these places. And it can also be fun. It can be interesting and make us laugh, and we can lighten up. We can lighten up ourselves and not be so serious all the time. I mean, there's so many different pieces to it. But I'll never forget the first 2 years. I was working madly to get myself out there and network, and it was something I could do naturally because I'm friendly. I'm Chicago Midwestern friendly girl next door, whatever. But I didn't love networking, and I can remember that you have to have a bit of strength in you to be an entrepreneur and create a business out of it, right?
No doubt. Yeah, it's a little scary, right?
It's a little scary. So, and I just remember that part wasn't important to me. I didn't let that be a worry. The part that mattered was I'm taking each small moment of time, each person that I'm connecting to in time, and I'm focusing there. So sometimes instead of this huge wide focus, I mean, maybe it's like similar to the game of golf. We could get really big with our focus, and testing the wind, whatever we're doing. We can also come in, I am in this moment now. And the more I did that, I found it became effortless. I didn't have to go networking 101,
Yeah.
It felt more natural. That's how it was for me.
Yeah, that's a great lesson. I think Walter Aguilar, is that a name you remember from the IPEC world? So Walter, and gosh, I haven't talked to Walter in a long time. So Walter, if you're out there, if you ever hear this, hope you're doing well. He, interestingly enough, he has spent many years coaching in the NHL hockey space, and goalies, NHL hockey goalies is kind of his niche. So talk about like specialty and specialty and specialty. It's really incredible. And we know some coaches that do some like amazingly niched kind of work, right?
Yeah.
But Walter used to use this term around horizontal thinking. And I don't think he invented it, but it always stuck when he used to talk about it, right? This idea that, like if we're in the present moment, we're here, but we can get stuck sometimes thinking about the crummy stuff that happened 5 minutes ago, 5 hours ago, 5 days ago, or we can get stuck thinking about the things that are coming up in 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, right? But this is where we live. We live in the present. And I think that's it sounds like kind of the lesson that you experienced as you grew into the space, right?
Yeah, and I have to remind myself every day, coming
No
back
doubt.
to I'm in the now. I don't, how much time do I want to spend? First of all, I don't want to be stuck in the past. I don't want the past being the solely responsible for shaping my present. So I can let
Yeah.
go of things that don't work for me. And I don't want to be
Yeah.
stuck in the future. In both those places, we are not in our personal power in both those places. The only place we have power in right now is right now. Of course, we can build for our future in that way, but we cannot go back into the past and change it. And that's where I feel a lot of people get stuck and get caught. And you must see it in the game of golf all the time, Paul, when you're coaching your golfing clients, your pros, how easy it is to get caught and struggle with the last shot or the last thought. It doesn't even have to be a thing or an
Right.
action. It could be a thought that pops in that we let it get to us. It's wild.
Well, it's actually the inner game of golf is the same game as the inner game of life. It's exactly 100% the same. Did I
Yeah.
just tell a secret there? Should I not have said that? No, it's the same. It's the same. No, it's really interesting. And me sort of stumbling into the golf game at the level that I have has just been so much fun because I enjoy it so much. But it informs the work that I do with all of my other clients
Mm-hmm.
on levels I can barely even describe. It's incredible, right?
Oh, yeah, I bet.
So yeah, it's about story and awareness and being in this moment and being able to accept and move forward. I mean, it's all of that.
Mm-hmm. So true.
Yeah. So, all right. So you've got this, now you're coaching and now you're gaining clients, right? I'm curious for you, like when you're at your best as a coach, what are
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that you're experiencing?
Oh, time falls away, environment falls away.
Ooh,
I
nice.
am I am experiencing and observing at the same time. It's level 7. It's as we know in our framework, levels 1 through 7. It's that high level of allowing and experiencing and receiving, and also I think what's really special about coaching is the one-to-one collaboration that comes out of a creative partnership that is focused on one person in the partnership who is the client. So there's this kind of interesting, we never know what's going to come up with the subject matter of the session, with the moment in that session. Could be one little
Mm-hmm.
thing that sparked something. Client is crying, client is raging, doesn't matter. But we are present. And when we're present, we're able to pause, we're able to respond, we're able to be creative, and we're creative together in this mutual, insightful froth. It's really thrilling in a funny way. And sometimes I'll get off of a coaching call and I'll wonder, I don't know, was I effective? I hope I was. And to me, I was like, yeah, it was pretty good. I think it was the usual coaching session. And then the client comes to the next session.
Yes.
You've had this. And they're like,
Yes.
wow, that session was incredible. And it led to this and this and this and this and all this awesomeness happening for the remainder of the week or 2 weeks. And so that catches the little critic in my head that is wanting to tear me apart at that moment. Like, I don't know, was it good enough? I mean, hello, there's the good enough gremlin.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, we exhaust ourselves with these things. So I think that over time in developing this, it's a trust that you allow for the experience of it. And in the partnership, there's this beautiful creative collaboration that unfolds that is, sometimes I just feel like I'm a witness, and it's not me. I'm not coaching. It feels, and I call it the
Yeah.
divine download. And I see it in the client too, because clients have their own divine download as well. they think that we have something special. Like, how did you know that? Or you're so intuitive, or you're this. It ain't me. I'm riffing off of you,
Yeah.
that there is, and that comes from that silence and that, I don't know, what do we call that, Paul? That moment of now where, I don't know if it's intuition comes in and comes through, inner wisdom is finally allowed to come through because we've relaxed and we're not hyper conscious about, am I doing it right? Is this okay? Who am I to think I can do this? Who am I to not do? Whatever our little self-judgments are that come into play, we're so hard on ourselves as people.
Yeah, that is so true. And I can't tell you how many times as a coach, I'll go into a coaching interaction. And if I'm not careful, the part of my brain that wants to say, oh, you need to deliver something big here, buddy. You better, deliver for the client in this moment.
Yeah.
And then I remember it's not about that, right? It's about something different. It's about showing up and then responding to what shows up, right? Responding to the client, right?
Yeah.
So
or Paul, not responding. It might be a pause of,
yeah.
And you said something interesting. You said deliver. I feel like I have to deliver. And to me, that is outcome oriented. And that's where we get caught.
Yep.
When we are banking our happiness or our anythingness on the outcome. And that's where we get into danger. And that is where we struggle, I find. And it's because we end up with an expectation of ourselves and others. We end up with a reaction to that outcome. And then that informs what happens for us next, the very next breath, the very next stroke in golfing, the very next whatever it might be. And so that's, anyway, when you said that, that's what came to mind.
Yeah, that's great. I talk about that all the time. Yeah. Outcome orientation is it's really a heavy load to carry.
Yeah. And I try to think of it as, you want to set your goals, of course. You're going to practice. You're going to work toward those goals. You're going to do all that. But when you let go of the outcome, it's inviting in curiosity, which is the opposite of non-judgment. And, I know these are words we say to each other all the time. But it's also this seeing the outcome for what it is without the label, without the judgment. It's not based on what you thought it should be, the expectation, but it's a result. It is just a result. Okay, did ball go in the woods? No judgment. I wonder what that's about. That's interesting.
Yes. Exactly.
And just being there, like, how do I be there and not be having the ongoing label of good or bad? Because we're going to ride the emotional roller coaster when we do that. I am happy when I get the ball in the hole. I am unhappy when it goes in the woods or in the sand pit or whatever it is. And how do we do that?
Yep. I think that's a great point. And I think what you're really getting at is this language set that we can carry with us to help interpret some of these things. Right. So I love this distinction between an outcome orientation and mastery orientation. Right.
Yes.
Where the outcome orientation is, I'm trying to prove my competence, but a mastery orientation is I'm trying to develop my competency.
Oh, so good. What a distinction. So good.
And that's straight out of core performance dynamics, and it's I think it's such a useful and people in the golf space like Gio Valiente has talked about this for years, this idea that hey, you can be an outcome, but it just means you trying to get something and show others, this level of competence that you've achieved. And that's a needs-based thing.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Learning something now, building your competency is a much different endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from a different place.
There's a practice that goes with it. And I think of when I think about outcomes, and when I'm working with clients, I work with a lot of executives, high-level C-suite executives, and billions of dollars are riding on their decisions. And
Of course.
So how do you not get caught up in that outcome? Very difficult to do. And one of the most important things I find with people is that if they can capture just a bit of compassion for themselves, no matter what the outcome is, it might be, it was a great outcome, I'm so proud of myself. What is the compassion that you can have for yourself in that moment? Like, I worked really hard for that, giving yourself credit for it. If it was an outcome you didn't like, how to have compassion for that. It's like the thing I always used to say about the toddler. When a toddler is first learning to walk, they're learning. That's what they're doing. So staying in the learning mode. If they overshoot their foot, they fall down. You don't scream at it, you idiot.
Right.
We don't scream at a toddler for that. So we're always in learning mode. That's the whole thing. Our whole life here is learning. Yeah. So
It is
interesting.
true.
But I like to wonder what would be different for ourselves, or, for our clients, if we could welcome any outcome without an expectation and without judgment on it, and without that reaction afterwards. What would be different for you?
That's what makes this a difficult game. I think the inside game is a hard game.
Mm-hmm.
I think the outside game is a hard game, right? We have to build our skills to enter into the arenas that we play in, right? Whatever that is, leadership, or I'm a surgeon, or I'm an athlete, or a guitarist, whatever that might be, right? Our outside skills are important. But then there's this, right? This is what drives how we show up. And that's a difficult game to play as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that comes back to when we're coaching our clients, we're looking at attitude, and what's the attitude, because there is a choice there that we have about how we want to view something. Do we want to view it shaped on our past? Do we want to view it shaped on an expectation? How do we want to view this thing? And even in that moment, by having a choice, we step back into our personal power. Instead of feeling out of power and powerless, I can't believe I blew that shot. I can't believe I blew that presentation, whatever the thing is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So our personal power, as you see it, is directly related to our interpretations of reality as it moves towards us.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's a saying, if you understand the Tao, you have no more questions. And what is the Tao? The Tao is the way. It is the flow of life. Emotions come in, happiness is in, and emotions flow out. Happiness is out. And if you can accept that and understand that is the flow, you have no more questions. So, and if you're golfing and you're unhappy about the shot you just did, know that unhappiness will leave and a new opportunity will show up. It's just how quickly can you do that? And so if you have a different attitude in the first place, and that's what you coach on, right? If you have a different attitude in the first place, you're not going to be in the place of being upset. So you're not going to have that issue. It's because your attitude is, I view this next shot as whatever you want to say, practice shot, learning.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see how my body feels in this new way. My golf coach did a little tiny shift in my grip. Whatever it is, what your attitude, you get to determine. It's your attitude. Are you going to have a good day or a bad day?
Yeah.
In this moment now or for the rest of the day?
Right. Yeah, there's a guy, Garrett Kramer, who wrote a book called Stillness. And he says exactly what you just said. And it's this idea that, just like imagine, a glass of water. You pour a glass of water, and sometimes you get those super, super tiny little bubbles, right?
Yeah.
And it looks cloudy. It looks like you just poured a cloudy glass of water, right? And, what's the one way to make that clear for you so that you can see through it? You just let it sit there and be still.
Yeah.
It's such a great metaphor, right?
So great.
And in a few moments, in a period of time, not that long, the bubbles rise to the top and things become clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it can be tough with emotions, because emotions, especially the emotions that we love to label negative, bad, anger, disappointment, resentment, and so on, stay in the body. Can you guess how long they stay in the body? Depending on how strong your reaction is, but in general, how long do you think those stay in the body?
I mean, I can sometimes feel intense emotions, tomorrow, the next day, 3 days. I mean, a long time, right?
Yeah, generally 48 hours. The emotions that make us feel things that we label as good, and there is no judgment on emotions, as we know. Emotions are neither good nor bad. They are there for us to learn from. But the happiness emotions, so to speak, stay in the body for about 24 hours. The hormones that are produced, right, stay in the body for 24 hours. So for the ones that make us feel not so great, those hormones stick longer. Why? That's our primordial brain keeping us safe from the saber-toothed tiger. So we can learn and go, don't walk on that path that goes right past the saber-toothed tiger's cave. So it's the amygdala hijack.
That's the negative emotion piece.
Yeah. That any emotion goes through the amygdala and gets filtered and processed, but we can get hijacked by the emotion, even by excitement and happiness. But it really comes out strongly when we're really upset with ourselves. We've just done a shot that we know better than to hit it into the woods. We sliced it, whatever. Did I go the right direction? I don't know. Anyway, whichever way, I always get those confused.
Well, it depends. Are you lefty or righty? That's we need to know that, but we don't have all the information.
Right. Right. And so knowing that the emotions are just, the E stands for energy in motion. Emotions are just energy in motion. It's going to come in and flow like a cascade, and it's going to go out. Here's the key, especially with the negative emotions and I'm not labeling it that. I'm just saying we tend to label sadness, anger, resistance, fear, etc.
Yep. We can categorize them that way, even though they're inert. I mean, they have no value until we give it to them, but we get that.
Exactly. So when that happens, that cascade happens, and we're in an amygdala hijack. Amygdala is the little almond-shaped little thing. It's about the size of an almond. When that happens, it shuts down the prefrontal cortex. Guess what happens in the prefrontal cortex? Rational thinking, problem solving. Yeah, the thoughts that could help us.
All the solutions.
Yeah, what's going on? Why? Because our brains are set up. We're not going to sit there and rationally think about what's the better way to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. Then we're dead. So that rational thought wants to get bypassed in stress so that we can go to the emotions that are going to put, like my sound effects, that are going to put adrenaline into the body to do what the body needs to do to stay safe. So that's the thing about when I think of golf or I think about the game of life. It's if you've ever been in an argument with somebody and you come away from it and you go talk to a friend about it, and you're like, I was so mad at myself because I couldn't think straight in the argument. That's what's happening, because the emotions are bubbling up. We can't think straight.
Well, Barb, for one, I've never been in an argument, so I don't even know what that's like. So I don't know what you're talking about there. Maybe some of our listeners will know, but...
And Paul, I'm tempted to believe that actually. It's very
They're
rare.
Loud. Loud. Yeah. No. My goodness. Paula can tell you.
You're just always
Miss
in a
Paula.
good mood.
She'll tell you.
I'm going to give Paula a call. She'd be like, hey.
Okay, so this is really interesting because this is always in the performance realm, right? Whatever arena we're talking about, again, the rules are exactly the same. I don't care what arena you're quote unquote playing in. When the stuff hits the fan, okay, we have this biology that we wear on the top of our shoulders, inside of our head, right? This biology called our brain, called our amygdala. Okay, so the threat is going to be triggered, right?
Right.
What's the better process to learn how to not see those moments as triggers or as threats to begin with, or to deal with the crap that comes as it comes?
Yeah, well, there's a long-term solution, which is the practice of attitude, the practice of mindfulness, the practice of meditation, all that good stuff. But in the moment, it really comes into an intervention right then and there to stop that emotional cascade in the moment as best as possible. And one of the biggest ones that people use is breathing. So doing a breath work in the moment and just stop. I've got to breathe it out. What does it do? It calms the vagus nerve. It is stimulating the vagus nerve in a good way, which will calm the system, slow the heartbeat, bodily, physically telling our body it's okay and stopping the cascade of, I have to help you, you're in danger, the primordial reaction that we have. So that's why, for example, in an argument, stepping away, you know what, I'm going to go out for a walk and let's come back because I want to get my brain back online. But in the moment,
but first I'm going to slam the door.
Okay, right.
I mean, isn't that what you're supposed to do? I mean, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, like the person that comes to mind is poor John McEnroe gets picked on for this, but in tennis, he would throw his racket.
You've got to be kidding me. I believe is a John McEnroe quote.
Exactly. And clearly he wasn't doing any practice of breath work to be able to catch himself in that moment so that it becomes a habit, a reflexive habit that, wow, when I'm so mad that this happened, I immediately go, breathing in, sip at the top, maybe even counting it out because that keeps the brain busy with the counting. It's an intervention that gets us away from the thought pattern we're having as well. Because a lot of times we bring in the past into that too, and we pile that on. This always happens.
Well, that's true. I mean, that is true.
Right.
That part's true.
Right.
That is absolutely the case.
Yeah. I think of it as in the game of life and the game of golf is, what can we do to preempt a reactionary state? It's also an attitude or perception about the stress itself. Why is throwing it into the woods or hitting it into the woods, why does that have to be stressful? So what? You lost a point in the game. You might lose the game. So why are we making that so important to ourselves? I mean, that's kind of interesting. So it's our perception of the stress itself. It's different for everybody.
Can we learn that though? Is that something we can learn to change and shift?
100%.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And also, this is the ironic, strange thing, is recognizing that even when those reactions don't feel good or feel quote unquote bad, or it's bad to get angry, is to allow for that emotion and have compassion for oneself in that moment, because that emotion is not good or bad. It's not bad to be angry. Take that in. It's not bad to be angry. What matters there is, how does it affect me in my immediate future?
Mm-hmm.
Am I able to think straight? Am I able to calm myself enough to do the next shot or the next sales call or the next meeting with my boss? I can't believe he just said what he said in the board meeting out loud to everyone about me. And now I got to go talk to him in his office. How do I calm myself? It's this strange balance of allowing and validating that feeling. It's okay to feel really mad right now because he or she, or I'm mad at myself because I did something I didn't want to do. So it also is a backtrack to looking at, what are my expectations? Why are they there? Why do they matter to me? Why am I having a reaction of disappointment?
That's interesting. That's an interesting take.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
Yeah.
And so speaking of struggle, I was reminded of something that happened it must have been 2011. Yeah, it was. It was July of 2011, and I had signed up to join the IPEC coaching cohort based in Chicago. And Barb Heenan, you were my instructor, and we had a team there. And I don't know if you remember. You will remember this, but the second day of training, it was a 3-day event in Chicago, like a let's call it a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And the second day, well, Barb's not there. No, I take that back. Oh yeah, you were a couple minutes late, like a couple of minutes late. But enough so it was like, yeah, you were like 10 minutes late, but oh yeah, we got you were there and you were high energy and let's do this. Here we go. Let's go. Right. At the end of that day, and we were talking about a lot of these very same concepts, how does struggle show up for you? How does it show up for your client, and et cetera? You told the story of what happened when the rainstorm came through.
Oh, in Des Plaines, Illinois. It was one of the worst floodings there. Yes, they're on a floodplain because of the Des Plaines River. Oh gosh.
You remember that?
Yes, I do.
But you showed up and you put that, to me, that was just amazing. So talk us through what that was like. Okay. And
it was waking up at 2 a.m. I was staying with a friend and we had known each other for years, very good friends. And she lived in a split level and her basement was lined in gorgeous walnut paneling, crazy. The house was built, whatever, in the 40s or something. And all I remember is waking up to a blood-curdling scream at 2 a.m. And I went to bed at probably 11:30. So I'm on 2.5 hours of sleep at this point. And I woke up, I came downstairs, and there's Jan staring down at the stairs, and the entire basement is full of water. So it was probably waist-high water. And I had just moved in with her, and I had cardboard boxes of family photos. I had, all that good stuff. And she had just recarpeted it, and she had just bought new furniture and put in all this cool stuff. And she can't move. She's screaming. And I just went, and stupid me, because I don't know if the electrical is okay, but I did the stupid thing. I did my finger can I touch it? Will I get electrocuted? Like it matters. Yeah. Right. I'm going to be electrocuted if I jump in or if my finger's in or whatever it is. And all I remember is I just went into go mode, and I went down and I said, Jan, you stand there. I'm going to start sending furniture up your way and whatever boxes are still not floating or whatever. And we just, this was for hours. This was like 4 hours of me in the water, waist high water, moving huge chairs. And we moved the couch. We moved everything out of there. Oh, she had 2 sump pumps. We got the sump pumps going. We did that. We then at 6:30 in the morning, I call my Rachel, my assistant, Rach, you got to start the day. I'm going to be about an hour late. We get in the car. We're driving down the street and the car, the floor of the car is about to be flooded. Go down 3 blocks, do the same exact thing in her mother's basement. So I think I got to you guys at like 9 or 9:30 or 10.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I said to Rachel, tell the team, do not look at me. Do not have puppy eyes, sad eyes. How are you? Are you okay? I mean, I was shaking the whole way there, and I just did my breathing. And I felt a duty and an obligation to show up and deliver the material in a way that the class could take it in, which is to keep them engaged, my story wasn't pertinent to that day. So I'm not going to go in and share it and be like, oh my God, you guys can't believe I just went through this horrible thing. It was all about service to what was going to happen. So the intervention for me in that was getting the support I needed, which was it's a normal day. I'm going to show up. And so asking to get my needs met in the moment. And then I just did the breathing all the way driving, to the hotel and doing the calming and getting my system back together. And I was still pretty shaky. It was like, get some food in me. I asked them, please go get bananas for me, get my
Yeah.
hot tea, get my stuff. So, and it's also kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The bottom layer is the physical layer of needs. Sometimes in the moment, it might be maybe you've done a bad shot or you failed your presentation. You might need to go into the restroom, or if you're on the course, you got to do a few down dogs or jumping jacks or whatever to reset
Right.
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Great.
that's an interesting memory.
It's amazing to me. And I don't think I ever heard that complete story, by the way. So it's
Oh,
news to me that you not only have the issue at Jan's place, but her
yeah.
mom's, right? Like,
Yes.
that is crazy. And, as a first person witness to how you showed up that day, it's amazing because nobody in that cohort knew what you were going through until the very, very end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like, you have got to be kidding me. How did you do that? And I think,
Yeah.
obviously, it's not planned. And of course it's
Well,
not planned, but I mean, it's like, it's really was a testament to
you maybe did.
understanding what
Yeah.
drives how we show up and really
Yeah.
using it. So it's
And
cool.
that's a really good point, Paul, right there. What was driving me? My job is to show up, be engaging, be funny, be entertaining, and teach really deep material that is sometimes hard for the people to take in because we're working out our own stuff, right, in the coaching as students. And
Yeah.
I was going to say, you might not have noticed that I could barely lift my arms to point to things because I was shaking from the physical tiredness of lifting furniture for like
Yeah.
5 or 6 hours, and the adrenaline of the whole thing. But yeah, so that's I love what you just said there. What drives us underneath, and being able to tap into that is such an energy source for us humans. What
Yeah.
matters to us? What is important to us? Why is this game of golf
What's
so
the
important?
mission? Yeah.
Yeah, what's the mission?
Mm-hmm.
Um, right? Is it pure enjoyment? Is it I want to prove something to myself? Is it mastery orientation? Is it outcome orientation? And often the outcome orientation is to prove to ourselves that we're worthy, or that we're worth something, or that we're valuable. So there might be something
No doubt.
deeper under there about an ego thing about, am I good enough? I want to prove to myself. When we can shift from that to the mastery orientation, we're not having to prove ourselves. We're simply learning for the joy of learning to add to our lexicon, add to our
Right.
embodiment of what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the irony in that, the fun part in that for me is, helping the client to realize that the path, the way,
Mm-hmm.
right, is not through grappling and grabbing at something in an outcome orientation, but it's actually stepping into an orientation that's much, much different, and one that where, when we are in this orientation where we're trying to elevate our competencies,
Mm-hmm.
it takes away that egoic pressure, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
involved in, look at how good I am. No, it's not even a thing anymore. It's,
No.
hey, I'm on this journey. I'm trying to get better. I might do better today. I might not. I can live with both,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think
And
that's cool.
I get to experience all of it. And how might I experience it? With curiosity, with love, with compassion, with learning, and accept and embrace all of it, even when I'm upset. And it sounds so strange to say, how can I accept my anger? Because so many people, or I'm just using anger as an example, but it might be holding resentment about something. It might be disappointment about something. Yeah. So what's the filter we're running it through? what is the component that's coming into play here that might be from our past that's coming in, that's literally shaping how our future is going to turn out because of a past experience, a past attitude. Right now in this moment, I get to make a choice about how I want to proceed because I can't go back and change it anyway. So that puts me in the power to make that choice.
Yeah, exactly. And settling into that acceptance is the way to, for the most part, create the things we want in the first place. And being in struggle against it or arguing with reality, for example, that's what creates a lot of struggle for us.
Yeah. Agreed.
That's cool.
True.
Hey, I am curious. What's one thing you would tell your younger self if you had a chance?
God, that's such a good question. I know exactly because I just went through something that took me back to my younger self. And I would say, you are loved, you are loving, you are lovable, and anything you experience is there for your learning. And when you grow up into an adult, you may or may not understand it all, but you will have your back. So there will always be somebody that has your back. And we're here to learn, and we're here to love. And that I know that's probably not what you were looking for, but maybe is a little too deep.
Could you do that again? That's not what I was looking for. Can we cut this? Somebody
have a different self. Yeah.
Can we cut? Let's do take 2 on that one.
Yeah.
Barb, that's perfect. No, that's great.
Yeah. Just as, looking back, I was really hard on myself my whole life. And it feels so good to be in a different place and just to be able to laugh at myself and have love and compassion. And yeah, that's such a great question, Paul. I love that question.
Oh, thank you. Why do you think you were so hard on yourself, by the way? Why do you think you were so hard on yourself?
Yeah, I think it was about being lovable. I felt like I had to be of value to the tribe, whether that's family, friend group, whatever, to be of value in terms of helping or be funny or be entertaining. There was a have to in there. And the truth is, I don't have to do bleep. I can just...
Yes. That's
Kevin
great.
can figure that one out. I don't have to do anything to be lovable. I exist, and therefore I am loved, And so it's being able to just learn, and the joy of learning, and the joy of being in sadness, the joy of being anger, the joy. I get to experience that. It's such a gift to be here on this planet and be able to do that. And so I just feel grateful for it all.
Oh, terrific. Yeah. No, I'm not here to judge the answer. If I were, though, I would say that's a great answer. Okay. No, it's super, super helpful.
Did I get an
A+? We don't give out too many A+, Barb.
Okay.
It's the first time someone's answered this question, so I can't just give out the A+ right off the bat.
Right.
There's a curve here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I think that I appreciate, by the way, that you answered a question that is not an easy one to answer in, say, like a public forum like this. But I think the language that you use, it's just so unbelievably informative for me. And I'm sure for so many that are listening, that it's like, wow, these are options, and life doesn't have to be a constant struggle. We can come to terms with reality as it happens and know that we can do something with it. And we're always in choice, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like it. And that's what I'm getting.
I'm sorry. Yes, agreed. And that there is a flow to life, that no matter what we're struggling with, the flow will move on, and we won't be in that struggle forever. And good things will come to us, and it will feel great, and we'll be in the flow, and that good thing might dissipate. And another one will come, and we'll come in and out of it. And the more we can be in that place of being in the flow with it, the more we can enjoy it and allow ourselves to experience it instead of, because struggle involves a fight, and fighting can be exhausting. Fighting is great and good for us. It's how we stay alive, at times when we need it, but it can be quite draining when it becomes de rigueur, like it's the everyday thing. So
no doubt. Yeah. I love that. Barb, this has been really awesome. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast here and kicking around these inside game topics. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me. And it's such an honor to spend time with you anytime. I mean, usually we're giggling about something, and we get in a coaching conversation and something comes up and we're laughing. And it's really fun to explore these things and just be able to have a conversation. So I appreciate you.
Tell us where we can find you, and if our listeners or viewers want to reach out and connect with you, how does that happen?
Come on out to Denver for a hike in the mountains.
Nice.
My email is barb@freshcompanycc.com. So Fresh Company, C like Charlie.com. And I always, if somebody has a question, what did you mean by that? I'm so happy to get on email and answer a question. I'm redoing my website completely, because I've had the same website for 18 years. Because after that 2 years of marketing, it was all just referrals. But now I'm in a new place where I'm creating something new. Yeah.
Did we have websites 18 years ago? I mean, what?
It's so bad. If anybody wants a laugh, go check it out right now. It is so bad. And
I'm right there.
I don't know. I somehow work with these like CEOs that I think they just go, well, she didn't know what she was doing back then, but we like what she's doing these days. I don't know.
She comes highly recommended.
Right.
Not much of a website, but she's highly recommended.
Yeah. And I don't have to criticize myself for it. And I choose to laugh. Yeah. So it's going to come down soon, but whoever wants to email me, feel free. And, but really, Paul is your go-to guy, because Paul, anytime I've ever wondered about anything, I know I can call you, I can ask you anything. We have had the most amazing conversations, and really, you're always so full of insights, and you have such a beautiful way of bringing those insights into a space that you have that lightheartedness. You and I both have that kind of, we do have a silly side.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And
exactly. I used to get in trouble for that, when I was a kid, though, because I never knew where the line was. And my dad was a hilarious guy. And so I would be looking and I'm like, he's making everybody laugh. I'm going to do that. And boom, I'd go right and cross the line. It'd be like, no, you can't say that. I was like 6 years old and getting reprimanded. But,
oh my God. Yeah. It's so great. Well, now you can be nudge, 35 years old and, right?
Yeah, give or take.
Right.
Yes.
And not have anybody.
Age is an attitude.
Oh, yeah, it is an attitude. Yeah. And I have a good one. I have a good attitude, and therefore age is good. But really, you just have such a beautiful way of putting things into words and having these insights when someone's talking. I know I've experienced with you, and I've watched you coach others, and I've seen it in the way that you coach, and it's just such a joy. So that's cool, because sometimes people are anxious and nervous about coaching. They're anxious or nervous about these kinds of deep conversations, and you make it this beautiful space that is, people feel welcomed, and that it's safe, it's not judgmental, and that it's going to be profound, and it's also going to be cool and fun and all those great things. And that's magic. That's really magic. And magic is real. So.
Well, listen, Barb, I don't want to stop you. We could do another episode if you want to continue talking more about that.
Anytime. I'm always
No, I appreciate that. That's super, super nice of you to say. So, well, listen, thank you so much, Barb. I appreciate that. Look forward to staying in touch. And again, thanks for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay. Barb Heenan just brought it. Man, that was awesome. How about that energy? Yeah, thanks, Barb. That was really terrific. Again, taking a lot of notes here. Loved what Barb said about what it looks like when we're at our best, and that it's things like, we all experience, sort of time begins to fall away a little bit. This concept of time falls away, and that being at our best is both allowing and experiencing at the same time. I loved how she said that. And I love this idea of thinking about when we're at our best, it's like a creative partnership between us and all of the elements around us. In a work environment, maybe it's the people we're collaborating with. In a performance environment, it's us as a musician and the audience. It's even in a competitive arena, like on a golf course, it's us and our competitors, or like in this creative partnership. I just love how she framed that. I love how Barb framed that, the Tao is this flow, and there's sometimes there's great times, other times there's struggle, and knowing that and understanding that and being okay enough with that, I think is the key to being able to stay in a productive performance space. So, Barb, so many great ideas. So thanks so much for that. And for those tuning in, thank you again for tuning into the Most Important Game podcast. I'm Paul Monahan. My mission is to help you lead, play, and perform at your best by focusing on your inside game, not just your outside game. If you want to learn more about the work that I do, you can visit me on my website. It's paulmonahan.com. You can find my book there. It's The Most Important Game, the very inspiration for this podcast. And it's available in hardcover and paperback, ebook, and Audible as well. If you're watching on YouTube and you enjoyed this conversation, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. It goes a long way for content creators like myself to be able to bring more episodes to you on a regular basis. And if you're listening to this podcast, please hit the follow button so that you don't miss an episode. We have a really great lineup that we're going to be working through over the course of this year, and I want to make sure that you don't miss an episode. Also, if there are any topics that you'd like for my guests and I to address and cover for you, all in this inside game arena and this performance arena, love to hear from you. Go ahead and drop me an email. I'm at paul@paulmonahan.com. Special shout out to Kevin Monahan, who's our producer on this episode today, pulling all the levers behind the scene. Thanks a lot for doing a great job, Kevin. Until next time, remember, don't give up. Stay in the game. No matter the arena that you're playing in, it's possible for you to play better, struggle less, and enjoy more.